Hey, it's David Barry. I'm your host of Leaving California Freedom. And today, Terry, we've got a special guest. And, we've had a lot of parents on our shows, and they are really, they're concerned about the moving. So today we're going to really focus on what is it like? And by the way, Terry, I don't know if you know this or not, but when I was 12 years old, my mom said, guess what? I was living in Fort Lauderdale. She said, "We're moving to Las Vegas." I said, "Where? What is that?" I didn't even know what Las Vegas was. So I have my own personal story of having to move as a child. And we have an author with us. Her name is Gina Kinney. How are you, Gina?
Good, thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. And I don't know if did your parents ever tell you, "Hey, guess what, Terry? It's time to move."
They
Yeah,
did.
many. Well, they did for me. They did. I'm Winter Park, Florida, to St. Petersburg, Florida, to Lake Placid, Florida, back to Winter Park, Florida. So yeah, and I don't know why, but they always just sprang it on us. Maybe you got the same thing, David. But hey, in 2 weeks we're moving. I'm like, what?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, so Gina, and by the way, I think Gina, you had shared with me that you actually left California and you live in a new city and state. And by the way, for our listening audience, Gina is an author. She's written 7 different books, and her realtor actually asked her to write a book of how moving and relocations affects children. So let's go ahead and dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Gina, and where did you live in California and where you moved to, and tell us a little bit about your writing, and we'll get into the topic, which is how moving and relocations affects children.
Yeah, well, so yes, I did leave California about 2 years ago. We were in Northern California near Napa Valley area. And we moved up to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and
Oh,
we love it very much.
awesome.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations. You seem like you're really happy, and I guess you'd like it there. It's pretty nice. I have not been there, but Terry, I guess you just visited, and you said it's pretty amazing. Somewhere I need to go check out.
Yeah, I was in Idaho. I was in Idaho for a wedding, and I had never been to Montana, so I said, "Well, I'm driving to Missoula. We have a wonderful realtor there." And on the way back, I stopped in Coeur d'Alene and absolutely loved it. What a beautiful place. Oh my gosh. I had heard decades ago, and I mean 30 years ago, that it looked a lot like Lake Tahoe. And it kind of was like Lake Tahoe, but a lot less crowded and just an absolutely beautiful place.
Well, for our listening audience, I wanted to remind everybody, if you don't know this about me, I taught martial arts to children for 35 years. I started the Karate for Kids program here in Las Vegas, and I retired from teaching Taekwondo about 6 years ago, and I've been solely focusing on real estate. So I'm a licensed realtor here in Las Vegas. But I got to tell you, I am super passionate about children. And when I saw that Gina was willing to come on our show and talk about how does relocations affect children, I was all in. And maybe you could share, because I believe that all of your books, and you've written 7 of them, are dealing with children and children issues. So if you could share, and let's talk a little bit about how does relocations affect children, and how'd you come up with this concept?
Yeah, so I write children's books, and they're typically for kids ages birth, 2 years old to about 6 years old, and they deal with a variety of different things from emotional development and calming down instead of tantrum being, how to stay safe if you get lost in the forest, so those types of books. And so my real estate agent, when I moved up here, saw that I had all these books, and she said, can you write one about moving? Because I really want to give families with kids that I'm helping a book so they can help them process their moving while they're in the process of doing that. And so I thought, what a good idea.
Yeah,
That's how it came about, the specific moving story.
it's really interesting that children are adopt to change better than adults do, but they don't like change. Boy, they hate it. And I certainly did. When my mom said we're moving to Las Vegas, I didn't even know what it was, and I was 12. So when you tell a 3 or 4 or 5 year old, guess what? We're not living in this house anymore.
Uh-huh.
That's a shocker, right? So
It's a big
so let's talk.
shocker.
What are some of the topics in the book, and is there coping and different mechanisms to help them and things like that?
Right, right. So when you work with young kids, like 2 years old to 6 years old, they're used to routines. They love consistency. They love routines. They love what's going to happen next. So when working with them, if you have a child that's moving, it's really important that you give them a lot of notice. Kids at that age are very visual. So if you have pictures of where you're moving to, like you said, you never heard of Las Vegas before. You're like, where am I going and what is
Right.
it?
Yeah.
And so it's really important now with the internet today, you can show them videos of different areas they're going to be at, what's there, maybe what their house is going to look like. If you take them with you when you're house hunting, I know it's not ideal, but if you go a second time for a walkthrough or something like that, it's nice for them to get familiar with the location and where they're going before they actually get in and move permanently.
Well, the thing is about a lot of our members, I mean, and let's face it, our members, they leave California for different reasons. Some of them leave it because they're not happy with different things that are going on in California. We have
Right.
people that leave California just because they got a new job and they didn't
Yeah.
want to leave. But I mean, people are leaving. So no matter what you say, even if you tell your child, oh, it's going to be so much better where we're going,
Yeah.
they don't care. They really don't want to hear it. They're like, no, I don't. What's your
No.
take on that, Terry? What do you think about that situation?
Well, again, I moved several times here in the state of Florida when I was growing up, and Gina's right. It was a very traumatic experience, especially what you experienced, David. The wild thing is that once we moved, I was so happy. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Every place we moved was better than the place we left. I was very happy about that, but of course, telling the child that is different. So, Gina, what kind of coping mechanisms or do you recommend for children once you move to a new place to get acclimated to help them start making friends? How do you treat that in the book?
Well, I have basically 8 tips for parents on what to do during the moving process. And one of them is to include them on packing day. So when they're packing up the house, when you're leaving, have them pack up some of the stuff in their room, have them place their favorite items in a special box, so they know where they are. And then also have them put that box in the moving truck. So they're saying, okay, this stuff is mine. It's going in this box. It's going in this truck, and it's going to end up where I'm going to be. And then talk about them where they're going, which I had talked about, showing them videos. Talk about the date of the move. So how will they get there? Will there be a moving truck? Will they fly? Will they drive? If you're driving, are you going to stop and eat on the way? Is there like a McDonald's that they love,
Right,
something to
right.
get them excited? Are they going to spend a night in a hotel? What's that going to be like? It's all about the process, right? It's just not about the big move. It's about the whole situation. Encourage them to be a part of the moving truck packing. So putting like pillows where they go, where they can see everything goes. Help them set up a plan for how they're going to stay in touch with their friends and family once they're there. So if they're moving away from all their friends that they've always known, their neighbors, their teachers, can they write letters? Can you set up a video chat with your neighbor that they've known since they were babies?
Mm.
Um, like once, for the first couple weeks, have them video back in and tell their new friends, oh, this is what's new on my street. I have a new green room or whatever it is that they want
Mm.
to talk about. Help them set up their new room, have them help pick out bedspreads, paint the walls, make it really theirs. And then also once they get there, have them take them somewhere where there's other kids. So if they're young, don't wait a week before you take them to the park. Don't wait a week before, you take them so they're around other kids and can make some close friendships in the neighborhood or even find out if there's other kids in your street that they can walk by and say hi to. So I think
Gina,
those are all things to think about before you move, during the move, and then after you actually get somewhere.
for our listeners out there, I just met Gina. We've been talking back and forth for a couple of weeks, but we actually had our first phone call today, and I'm meeting her for the first time. Gina, I really like you. I really like
Oh,
you. I love your
thank you.
passion. And I mean, this is my soft spot. Like I spent 35 years teaching children martial arts, teaching children that didn't have any confidence. They couldn't look you in the eye, and being able to build confidence in them and give them a little bit of an edge in
Yeah,
life, not have to be
yeah,
afraid. And your passion, it really exudes through.
yeah.
And I am so excited that you're sharing these things because it really is a thing. And I bet that a lot of our members that have left California or left to go anywhere, they don't think about this. They have so much on their mind. Like, oh my God, the moving truck's coming Thursday. Oh, we got to get our power turned on. I mean, the list is so long. But what about the 3 and 4 and 5-year-old that you got there that are freaking out right now that they're leaving?
Yeah.
So what about talking about transition? Because one of the things that scared me, and I don't know about you, Terry, probably scared you too, is, oh my gosh, I got to leave this school. I'm going to be going to a different school and I'm going to be the only one in there. Everybody's going to be looking at me like, who's he? Talk about the transition of education.
So, well, when you're young, like my population that I normally work with is maybe preschool and kindergartners, right? They're not at the junior high level, which is completely different. But I definitely think that the idea of enrolling them in something that they love doing when you get to your new city, so that you're not just dependent on the first day of school to meet peers and friends. So like you were teaching martial arts. And so if you have a child that's in like loves to dance or loves to swim or loves martial arts, or find something before you move that's close to your house that you can take them to that meets that interest, then they can meet other kids that have that same interest.
And
I would just recommend that if you do move to Las Vegas, you don't teach your child how to play blackjack. I just want to, even though there's free drinks with the blackjack.
no, Terry, they changed the law. It's now 21. It's 21 and older.
Oh, it's not 12 anymore.
Yeah, it's 21. So, and by the way, and Gina, I would imagine, and you're more of an expert on this than me, but I would imagine that the emotional effects, I'm sure that some kids probably get excited, some kids are neutral, and then we talk about children that are really freaking out, like they're super scared. Is there anything that you could give to our listeners that maybe like for somebody that really is, maybe they don't have the confidence and they're really, really afraid? What are some things that maybe some parent tips that you could give?
I really think making sure that you have the ability to talk to people that they left is going to be really important, and to make sure that the people that talking to them talk about moving in a positive way and not in a negative way. Because if they're telling them, oh no, you're gonna move and we're gonna miss you so much and this and this and this, instead retrain their thought process to, oh, you're gonna move and you're gonna move to a new place and you make some new friends and you can do all these new things. And like where we are, you can go to the lake every weekend.
Yeah.
All these different things to make this new place that they're going to be in something exciting and something that they can explore, instead of focusing on the, oh, I'm going to miss you and you're going to miss all your friends and you're going to miss your room, and so you're just changing everything from that negative to the positive. And the more they hear that and the more you feed that to them, the more likely they're going to overcome some of that sadness more quickly.
That is such great advice. And you touched on my next topic that's on my list, and that is building a new social network. And you shared, if you're in martial arts in one city, then you can go to a lot of the martial arts schools are nationwide. So if you go, my studio was an ATA school. So if you move to Idaho, we have a lot of ATA schools there. So you could have a similar experience. But then, maybe you could share some other tips too, because, and by the way, for the parents out there, I think I can speak on this as well. I would encourage you to get your children out there. Don't wait. Get them out there, get them in the city, go to the park, go to different activities and get them involved in the community as much as you get involved in the communities, and you're going to make a lot of new relationships. So the next topic is building a new social network. Can you add anything to that?
I think one of the most important things to do is, if you have a child in preschool, to make sure you find a school that is similarly run in your new state. So if you're coming from something like a Montessori school or Reggio school, which are uniquely taught, make sure you put them in something similar in the new place. So you're not just changing their location, but you're not changing like their daily routines. So I think that's really important to know. If they're coming from a charter school and you're going to put them in a public school, it's going to look completely different to them. Or a charter to a charter sort of situation.
So I had the same situation happen with my daughter, and she just graduated from high school here in Las Vegas, but she moved. We lived in Houston for a few years, and she had all of her best friends there. And Terry, you're going to find this surprising, but when I was 12, there was no Zoom call. We didn't even have cell phones back then, Terry. And so
Well, you went across the country in a covered wagon, didn't you, from Florida?
So you're pretty funny today. I like this. This is episode 38. This is going to be our comical one. But this is the serious topic, though. With all kidding aside, Gina, you said that, with social media now, and my daughter, she still has all the same friends in Houston. They still communicate and talk, and they can look at each other. So social media, maybe you, since it didn't occur when I was back then for me, but talk about using social media a little bit. And I think that eases the pain for these young, small children that are leaving.
It does. And I think it's so neat that like Facebook, you can create private groups. So create a private group of all their really close friends from where you moved from. And you can video in there with them. They can have a little group chats in there with them. And they can share pictures with each other, what's going on. And I think that in itself helps the relocation easier. I know as an adult, it helped me because I can still look, I can know what's going on. And, some of my close friends, I mean, I lived there my whole life. So I still have a nice group of college friends where I left from, and I can communicate with them easier. So even as young as 3 or 4 or 5, if you're in like a preschool program, or if you're in a play group with your friends' kids or your neighbors' kids, or have them text you a picture of them at the playground that day, or look what they're doing, or let's go try to do that too at our playground. You want to play bubbles? They're playing with bubbles. Let's go outside and play bubbles too, or that sort of stuff. So adult, teenage kids can do it themselves. Parents need to facilitate that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a great point, Gina. And I will tell you, my son was 16 years old when I moved him away from his home and childhood friends that he had gone from kindergarten all the way through 11th grade with. And he came out here, and they didn't miss a beat. They were on, they played games together online with their headsets on. They were talking to each other. It's wild because, just as David was saying, when I left St. Petersburg in 1970, I was in 5th grade, moved to Lake Placid. I had been there for 5 years. I don't have a single friend from that group that I went through elementary school with, because there was no way to stay in contact with people. I sure wasn't writing letters to them back then. But now you've got all this social media that allows you to stay in touch with people. I would also say, and maybe you bring this up in the book, but if you've got relatives or friends back there, perhaps it's a good idea every once in a while to go back and visit, because that's what my son does. He still goes back and visits his friends from childhood and in California, and that's something they look forward to, and they always have a great time together.
And have them come visit you. I mean, I think that's a huge thing, is if your child can be the tour guide of all their favorite things. And if it's not possible for them to physically be there, they can do a Zoom call of actually walking and showing them, this is my new park, this is my new whatever around my neighborhood, and my new room, and my window,
we're fortunate here.
And all these things.
We're fortunate here in Orlando. We have Disney World, Sea World,
Yes,
Universal Studios. And his friends have all come out, and they've all gone to those places, and so it's not hard to attract a house full of teenagers and now soon to be 20-year-olds to come to Orlando. So, and flights are cheap these days. It's easy to get here.
Well, Terry, we're going to talk. The next topic on my list is adopting to a new environment and a new culture. Now, I'm going to assume both of you guys lived in Northern California. Terry lived in the Bay Area. And so if we talk about culture in the Northern California and going to somewhere in Idaho, Terry, what do you think about the difference in the culture?
Well, first of all, you're going to walk into Home Depot and see that everything's not locked up. You can actually
That's the
buy
first thing
spray
I
paint
saw.
right off the shelf. You can go up and buy spray paint right off the shelf. What a concept. Wow.
Yeah.
And they don't lock up the hammers because they don't have a smash and grab section in the Home
Yeah.
Depot.
So the environment is different and culture. So actually, I was just kind of kidding a little bit. We do kid a little bit about, and by the way, again, I remind everybody every week, we're not here to tell you to leave California. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to stay and we tell them, please stay. You should stay. But if you want to go, we just want to educate you and give you as many tips and education tools to make it smooth. And this is a big piece. And I hadn't really, honestly, Gina, I hadn't really thought about this piece, which is surprising because I've taught children my whole life, but I'm very passionate about this. So Gina, let's talk. I want to have you talk a little bit about new environment and culture, because it is, I'm sure it's a culture shock. Even if you're only 4 or 5, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So talk
It
about that.
is. It is. I mean, we moved from a place that was still kind of Napa Valley is pretty country. Let's be honest, still vines and grapes, all these fun things. And then we moved up here and there's mountains and there's lakes. And what do people do? There's snow, like a lot of snow in the winter, which is great, but that it's a big difference, right? It's a big culture. People are outside in the snow, riding bikes in the snow, four-wheeling in the snow, all these different things are going on. And so I think it's important to get your kids experiencing what the local culture is doing so that they can come up with new ideas and new pastimes. One of the things down the road has it's a ski resort and it also has an indoor water park. So everybody goes skiing in the morning and then goes to the water slides and the hot tubs and the sauna in the afternoon. And it's kids that are not exposed to those sorts of things
Yeah.
before are going to go out in the snow and touch it and be like, oh my gosh, what is this? But once you show them that it's fun and you can do all these new things, and culturally people love the snow here and they celebrate it when it snows and they love thunder and lightning and all those different aspects of the environment and how that impacts the local culture and the local lifestyle, I think is really important.
So Terry has, as I shared with you earlier, Gina, Terry has created the Life After California, and I know you're a member and leading California, and we have almost 300,000 members. And Terry has put together an amazing compilation of movers and lenders and realtors across the country to help make this easier. But now we're going even one step further. So we're talking about moving, and the last thing that I had on my topics was getting the children involved in the moving process. And you touched on that earlier. So could you highlight the key points that you made from your book about how do you get a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old involved in the moving process? Because most parents would be like, no, get out of the way. I got this. I can do it. But then I think that that's a problem because you're not getting them involved in the process. So could you share a few more, hit that again, please?
So if you think in the mind of a 3 and 4-year-old, all that they've ever known is where they are right now, right? They don't even remember 2 weeks ago, really. And that was a big event. They know right now, this is my room, this is my space, this is my stuff. They really don't want to share their stuff yet with anybody else. That's what a lot of parenting stuff comes around, right? Sharing. So when you put it away in a box and it's gone, then it's scary. So even it doesn't matter if it's their toys or your kitchen dishes or your kitchen table or your couch, it's what they've known their whole lives growing up. So they have an attachment to these items and it's what makes them feel safe. So having them be a part of packing and moving, packing up things in their room, helping them have them be around when you're packing up the stuff in the kitchen, have them be around when the movers are there putting things in trucks. Make sure that they can put something in a truck so they know where it is and then it's with all the other stuff. And talk to them about how their stuff is going to get with them. Some people have moving companies, some people tow all their stuff with them. So it just depends where you're going to go. But after they get to the new house, have them find a room, or you probably have a room picked out for them, but have them pick the paint colors for the room. If they need new furniture, have them help you pick the furniture, have them help them pick the bedspread, have them help set up where things are, and then start unpacking the boxes so that they realize that if this is the same thing that I had before and I have it now. And
Well,
that will make the transition way easier.
this has been so educational, and before I definitely want you to, we're going to talk about, and by the way, for all of our members, Terry and I have a package that we do for our members. And if you're interested in getting a hold of our package, and Terry, this might be something that we can include in the package for using our vendors in our network. Maybe that we could get them a copy of the book. So before I go ahead and wrap up with you and you talk a little bit more about your books and how they can get them, Terry, is there anything that I missed about this piece of the equation of having your children come along?
No, other than I think Gina is touching on this, but the parents are going through an adjustment also, obviously. So they need to keep mentally think that they're keeping it forefront that their children are going through a lot of change also, and that it's not just the parent that's going through it, it's also the child, and they need to be sensitive to that as they're going through these changes. And I think it's great that Gina, you've written a book about that, and would love to know how people can get a copy of that.
Yeah, well, so Sammy, so that's what this is over here. Sammy is the golden retriever, and all my books are Sammy the golden dog. And he's the main character in all the books. So it makes it very, kids love to relate to him. And I write as a first person. So like Sammy's going through the experience. And he is like a little preschooler in the books, right? So it's coming from what a 2, 3, 4-year-old would be thinking and how they would be talking. And so these are some of the books. Like this is the one, Sammy moves to a new home. And you can get it on Amazon. You can order them from my website, and I can give you that information. But it's a children's book, right? So it's the whole story, and they walk through. And here's Sammy, and they're talking about, what? You're taking me to a new house? No, but I'm gonna miss all my friends, and oh my gosh. And so there's all these things. But in this book, he's sad in the beginning. They go through the move, and then Mama says, "Oh, but there's a park down the street." And there's a bakery that makes, your favorite dog bones that you love so much. And that's what first thing they do when they go is they meet a neighborhood kid who takes them to the park and introduces them to his friends, and they go get the cookies. And, it makes just that first day really exciting. So it's a transitional book. It's great to read it to your kids before you move and then after you move. So it kind of encourages them to go meet new friends and be in that part. So all the books that I have, alphabet, counting, sharing, social emotional book is my biggest one. It teaches kids how to calm down when they feel upset instead of tantrum, because that's a big thing, right, for 2-year-olds. And then how to stay safe when they get lost. I wrote that with my search and rescue team that's volunteers, because a lot of kids wander off and keep moving when they're wandering. It teaches them how to stay safe and just stay in one spot while people are searching for you. So there's a variety of books and lots of topics, but they all follow kind of that social emotional development of a preschooler and teaches them what to do in certain situations.
So which book is your favorite one?
Good question. I think, I don't know, I like Sammy Learns to Share. I think that's a really fun one. Because that's a big topic. Then I work as a preschool director, so I deal with that constantly all day long. I feel like I read that book a lot. No.
And Gina, do you happen to have a story? I know that this is an early stages book, but do you actually have a story of a family that was able to read the book before they moved and then they moved? And that is there something that resonates with you where you have a family that went through this?
I have a family that families that use the books in general will tell me that the dog is very identifiable and makes it very easy for kids to want to do what the dog is doing. So I feel like when they see the dog doing all these things in the book, they're like, oh, look, the puppy's doing this. I can do this too. Or That I think is the biggest thing is when you see why I picked a dog is because it's very relatable to kids. Most kids like puppies, golden retriever puppies, or helper dogs, or in a lot of situations. And the families tell me that that's one of the biggest things. Sometimes they go to the dog and tell them why they're upset. Like they go to the actual dog themselves.
Right.
And then the dog whispers back in their ear, and then they're like, okay, I'm better.
That's cool. That's super cool. So
It's pretty good.
so if
Yeah.
somebody wants to get a hold of the dog or they want to get a hold of one of these books, maybe you could share your website or your email address and make sure you
Yeah.
say your name and how does somebody get a hold of you to get a hold of one of these items?
Yeah, so my website, you can just put in sammythegoldendog.com and it'll take you to my website. The dog and the emotions program, the one about calming down, that one's only on my website. All the other books you can buy on Amazon, and you could just go to Amazon and type in Sammy the Golden Dog children's books, and they'll just pop up with all of them. So they're all available. If you're a realtor, I have lots of local realtors buying bulk, so they can give them to their families that they're working with if they have little kids. So that you would order through me, since I can give them bulk copies.
Understood. And Terry, as we wrap up this amazing show that deals with my passion, children, do you have anything you want to add or comment on, Terry?
No, this is great advice. It's been great to meet you, Gina. I wish you the best, and I thank you for that. David, can you let me share my screen? I want to show my golden dogs so that we can. Oop, almost. Give me just a second here. There we go. There's my two girls.
Oh,
They were my California dogs, and now they're my Florida dogs, and they didn't have a single bit of issue adjusting to
nope.
Florida. They
Is it an Australian Shepherd?
yeah, border collie.
I have an Australian Shepherd, looks just like her.
Yeah, you border collie and a yellow lab, and they love to swim in California and they love to swim in Florida as long as they don't go in the lakes because there's alligators here.
Yeah.
I keep them in pools here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once again, I'm your host. I'm David Barry. Please, we're asking every week now to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're giving out tons of free information, and we hope that this is helpful. If you know of a family that's traveling and moving with children, this would be a great segment to share. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear from all of our members. So please like, subscribe, and comment and post on our sites. We appreciate all of our members. We do this every week for all of you. This is episode 38. I'm David Barry, your host, and I hope you have a great week. We'll see you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.